Thank you very much. Good evening for everyone. Probably some of part of us is good morning. So my name is Ririn Haryani. I'm the Senior Project Manager of FINE Indonesia, Foundations for Innovative New Diagnostics. We are based in Switzerland and supporting the health transformations of Ministry of Health of Indonesia. And what I already delivered is one of our projects supporting the Minister of Health. And of course, today we extend our gratitude to IHIN for these invitations and to all the participants and the panelists for taking the time to join us today. So this discussion is particularly encouraging because conversations around AMR are not something we encounter every day. So AMR has been often referred to as silent pandemic, while posing a significant threat to global health. And initiatives like this webinar play a crucial role in shedding light on the reality of AMR and, of course, reinforcing its importance as a pressing global health challenge. At FINE, our vision is clear: diagnosis for all. Accurate and timely diagnosis is fundamental because poor or incorrect diagnosis directly contributes to the rise of AMR. Furthermore, the absence of reliable data on AMR severely hampers efforts to implement timely and effective mitigation strategies. This is particularly why we embark on this foundational work with collaboration with the Ministry of Health Indonesia and our partner at IHIN to develop the interoperability data standards that support a one health approach to MR in Indonesia. FINE committed to leveraging digital health and artificial intelligence to empower patients, enable healthcare professionals, and also strengthen public health responses. This initiative, especially when integrated with Satu Sehat, aligns perfectly with these objectives. However, developing standards, while it is very critical first step, successful implementations and widespread adoptions present an entirely different challenge, opportunity for all of us to come together, shape these standards collectively, and accelerate the adoptions. By doing so, we can ensure that the data flows seamlessly and transparently, providing us with the insight needed to understand what is happening and guiding our actions basically towards effective solutions. Lastly, let me take the opportunity to thank the Ministry of Health of Indonesia, the DTO team, particularly by providing their best support to this important project. But most importantly, IHIN team, Pak Anis and Pak Gugus team, for the extra miles in delivering this important project. So it may appear a long way to go, of course, but we are glad that the journey finally started. And FINE remains available to continue leveraging our experiences in AI, connected diagnostics, integrated disease surveillance, and to make this all fruitful. Without further ado, thank you very much for the opportunity and also the invitations to join this important webinar. Terima kasih. Selamat malam. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you for those words and the succinct overview, Ms. Ririn. It's really great to have you here. Now we would like to pass the virtual floor to Ms. Vida to begin with the first presentation.
Thank you, Cha. So good evening, everyone. So I'm Vida Paradi. So I'm going to present the results of our project last year with under the leadership of Pak Anis Fuad. So this is our project last year is developing the playbook basically for the MR, antimicrobial resistance surveillance, working together with the Ministry of Health. And as Dr. Ririn has explained before, this is the first step for Indonesia. So we are going to walk you through the process when we did this research last year. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the introduction to AMR for those of you who are not familiar with the antimicrobial resistance, and then also walking you through the research that we did, what is the condition of AMR surveillance in Indonesia using the One Health approach, and our research methods and key findings, and what are the challenges and opportunities. And then following Pak Anies Fuad will explain about the leveraging Satu Sehat, our government application, and the interoperability standards for AMR and AMU, or antimicrobial use surveillance. And then Dr. Bimo Gregorius Bimantoro, or Dr. Bimo, will explain, will provide the expert commentary and future directions of this playbook. So this is just to give some of you who are not familiar with AMR about what is actually AMR. So let's begin that AMR, what we call antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, occurs when microbes basically stop responding to the medicines designed to treat them. So this makes infections harder to cure and increases the duration and severity of illness, and raises treatment costs. According to WHO and the Lancet, AMR is linked to about over 1 million deaths annually in around the world. So that shows how urgent actually AMR is, because it affects not only humans but also animals, plants, and as well as the environment. And it spread, the spread is actually driven by the misuse and overuse of antimicrobials. And because resistance moves across sectors, we use a One Health approach, which recognize that human health, animal health, food systems, and environmental conditions are all interconnected. With this approach, multi-sector coordination is essential. Our objectives of this landscape analysis. So we started our project with this landscape analysis, and the objectives of the analysis is we try to map the current AMR surveillance situation across 3 sectors in Indonesia, and then we examine how data flows, who collects the data, where it is processed, and how it is shared. And we also reviewed existing policies, guidelines, and governance frameworks for AMR surveillance. Lastly, we identified major gaps and operational challenges, as well as what is actually needed to strengthen system interoperability and build a more integrated national AMR surveillance system. So to conduct this analysis, we actually use 4 complementary methods. We started with document review or literature review, which included national AMR policies, surveillance guidelines, reports, regulations, and technical documentation. And then we did this system and structural analysis, mapping how AMR data is collected, reported, and distributed across institutions. We also went to several hospitals, labs, and other facilities in, I think it was 3 or 2 cities in Indonesia to observe AMR reporting practices on the ground. We did in-depth interviews with key stakeholders from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, Environment, as well as health facilities and also program implementers. So together, these methods allow us to gain a comprehensive view of how AMR surveillance functions in Indonesia today. So the surveillance, the AMR One Health surveillance situation, this is actually a snapshot of how AMR surveillance currently works in each sector. In human health, AMR reporting is mainly driven by hospitals, specifically the government hospitals, selected government hospitals, through AMR containment task force in each hospital. Also using the National AMR Containment Committee data, or KPRA, and also professional organizations like the Indonesian Society for Clinical Microbiology or PAMCI, and the Indonesian Association of Clinical Pathology and Medical Laboratory or PATCLIN. So the coverage has expanded, but is still limited relative to the national system's needs. For example, in animal health, the systems like eSignas and IV-Lab support AMR and antimicrobial use reporting. However, a significant portion of data collection still relies on manual recording, especially on poultry and aquaculture farms. While in the environmental sector, AMR surveillance is still in the early stages. So the National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, conducts wastewater studies as a proxy for AMR, but there is no fully dedicated national system in place yet. Basically, our analysis revealed several important findings. AMR and AMU surveillance involve more than 80 stakeholders, yet the implementation remains highly fragmented. For example, the GLASS reporting that we report regularly to WHO covered only 20 hospitals in 2021 and increased to 74 hospitals in 2023 under the GLASS, what we call as GLASS SINAR. Integration is also another challenge. Satu Sehat and the national size for the animal sector have not yet incorporated AMR data. eSignas from the Ministry of Agriculture has captured antimicrobial use in animals, but it is still not fully integrated with human sector surveillance. We also found gaps in the implementation of our 2.0 NAP, National AMR Action Plan, and we also found inconsistencies between regulations and field level practice. The overall framework used to move from analysis to actionable recommendation. So we begin with identifying the stakeholder, doing the stakeholder mapping, and also the death reviewed across the human, animal, and environmental sectors. We conducted a gap analysis to identify technical, structural, and operational barriers. And these findings actually inform the development of data standards and interoperability guidance, then resulting in the AMR playbook for Satu Sehat integration. This playbook outlines how AMR data can flow across sectors using the interoperable standards such as HL7 FHIR. This is the timeline shows actually how AMR policies have evolved in Indonesia, started from 2016 when we had the first national AMR plan drafted, and then the 2017 the multi-sector action formally began under the National Action Plan. And in 2020, the government officially adopted our I think it was this 2.0 AMR Action Plan, which covered the period from 2020 to 2024. And then during 2022 until 2023, Indonesia began applying the One Health, Satu Sehat approach. And last year, the National AMR BSI survey was launched to strengthen the national laboratory and surveillance capacity. And then from this year onward, Indonesia will implement the new national AMR strategy until for the next 4 years. And this will be the next roadmap for AMR containment in the country. Talking about the coordination network on One Health, actually it's at the top is the coordinating ministry for human development and cultural affairs. For those of you who are not aware, actually the past year we have a new president and the new cabinet. So the stakeholder mapping that we did last year, some of the ministries or institutions have changed because the new cabinet restructured the ministries. So some ministries are split to become two ministries, for example, and Ministry of Environment is split. Previously, it was Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Now it's only Ministry of Environment. So some of the data that we collected are no longer relevant. However, the majority is still relevant. So the One Health is under the Coordinating Ministry for Human Development and Cultural Affairs. And the Ministry of Health contributes through a few directorates related to service quality, pharmaceutical oversight, and also the national AMR committees. The KPRA, what we call as the AMR committee, containment committee, and also the task force within the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Agriculture provides veterinary, public health, and animal health leadership, while the Ministry of Environment manages the waste. The MR is under the Waste Hazardous Materials and Environmental Quality Units. We also have Ministry of Marine Affairs, Marine and Fishery Affairs that oversight the aquatic systems. And then across sectors, the workflow is supported by a steering committee, implementing committee, and the working groups. So this cross-sectoral structure, the government try to ensure that AMR surveillance and control can operate holistically under the One Health framework. The surveillance system of AMR and AMU or AMC is antimicrobial resistance is AMR, and then AMU is the antimicrobial use, and AMC is antimicrobial consumption. So for human health, the diagram actually shows the different data sources and systems involved in monitoring the human health sector. So hospitals report AMR data through culture and antibiotic susceptibility testing. Often use systems such as WHO NET, Backlink, and hospital information systems like SIMRS. While antibiotic prescription data comes from primary health care centers and also pharmaceutical facilities captured through application like Simpus, Simona, and other national platforms. These data streams then feed into national level surveillance, most notably the Directorate of Quality of Health Services in the Ministry of Health and national AMR committees. Then the report to WHO GLAS also occurs for selected indicators. What this diagram demonstrates is actually the complexity of the existing system, using multiple software tools, multiple stages of data handling, and several recipients. So each actually plays a critical role, but the fragmentation also highlights why interoperability is urgently required. We will see the systems for the animal health and environmental sectors. For animal health, AMU and AMR data come from chicken or poultry farms, fish farms, animal hospitals, and veterinary laboratories. These data are recorded through systems like eSignas, IVLab, and the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries databases. Some data also flow to World of Animal Health application called Animus, which is the global platform. for reporting antimicrobial use in animals. So on the environmental side, AMR surveillance mainly focuses on wastewater sampling conducted through research led by our National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN. While this provides valuable insights, there is still no dedicated national surveillance system for environmental AMR. So these systems all together so that each sector has strengths, but the levels of maturity, digitalization, and reporting consistency vary. This creates challenges for building a truly unified One Health surveillance network. So we identified these challenges and opportunities in implementing One Health AMR surveillance in Indonesia. Some of the main challenges include the fragmented sectoral development, meaning each sector has progressed at different speeds, and data fragmentation across multiple systems, making integration challenging, and inconsistent data standards, which also limit the interoperability, manual data entry, and limited real-time reporting capacity. Also gaps in policy implementation despite existing regulations, and capacity building needs, especially for facilities and personnel at different levels. But however, alongside these challenges, we also see important opportunities. For example, the National AMR Action Plan already provides a strong policy foundation. There was also growing momentum for digital transformation through systems like Satu Sehat. Satu Sehat in Indonesia translates as One Health. So there is a shared recognition across sectors that AMR surveillance needs to become more integrated and efficient. We also found these findings also set the stage for the next steps, which is building interoperability, strengthening data standards, and developing cross-sector workflows. So this final slide for me is highlighting four key opportunity areas. First is the development gap. We have the opportunity to bridge sectoral gaps, especially by bringing environmental health more fully into AMR surveillance. And also for the One Health approach, there is this coordinated approach can help integrate data and insights across human, animal, and environmental sectors more effectively. In terms of knowledge and capacity, there is a major potential to strengthen human resources, improving technical skills, awareness, and capacity for managing AMR and AMU and AMC surveillance. And lastly is the technological opportunities, where digital systems like Satu Sehat can help enable real-time reporting, more complete data sets, and better linkages across sectors. These opportunities show that while challenges remain, Indonesia is actually well positioned to make substantial progress toward a functional One Health AMR surveillance system. So I will end my presentation and hand it over to Pak Anies to continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Vida, for introducing the AMR context in Indonesia. We conducted the landscaping on regulations, the evolution of our policies, and also describing all stakeholders, including the data collection in our AMR surveillance and also antimicrobial use. So this is my turn to introduce, I think, the last slide of Vida presentation regarding how to scale or improve our surveillance system using the digital transformation strategy and initiative. One of our finding during landscaping is that even though the health sector quite mature compared to the animal sectors and also environment regarding the data collections, but we found uh, catastrophic situations in the health sectors in which the staff or health workers, uh, either those who work in the laboratory, in the clinical wards, and also other units in the medical records, they are confronted with many systems in which the system do not communicate one to another. So, for example, laboratory staff, when they receive result from any microbiological modalities, they need to enter from the laboratory information system because it is already automatic system into another reporting mechanism and also to report into EMR systems and then also to compile the data into the global reporting system GLASS of antimicrobial resistance. And it's also happen in the primary care level. So I think this one is one of the challenges in our healthcare systems with the multiple system and do not communicate one to another. We aim that after we conduct this landscaping and discuss with several stakeholders, finally we found out that there are many method for data collections and then even, for example, for the reporting of the IMR data, we found that they also use either Excel or PDF file or even MS Word and then report and then send by email to the higher level. Ministry of Health also provide web-based aggregated data system, but still it needs to be used by users to enter from the existing data into the web-based system. On the other hand, the Ministry of Health already implemented policies on electronic medical records. Since 2022, the government requested that all health facilities should implement EMR. And the government also provide with the support of the standardization. For example, the government also buy the license of SNOMED City. The government also invests on adapting the anatomic therapeutical chemical classification drugs into the kamus farmasi alat kesehatan. And also we introduce FHIR itself 7 as the standard of data exchange. So the question is how to use these terminologies, use the standard, and also use the guideline from WHO to develop the playbook of antimicrobial resistance surveillance and antimicrobial use uh, system with the playbook of Satu Sehat. So we learn from the Satu Sehat vision of the government that we would like to have this platform to connect all the health facilities with the standard and mechanism to for reporting and data exchange, and also with the standardization with all the terminologies. So it is already developed the platform and it is the place to implement the platform for IMR surveillance and IMR and also antimicrobial use reporting. I think in several IHIN session, there are many topics related to the standardization, including itself 7 FHIR. So in FHIR, actually, it is a universal standard to allow a different system to speak in the same language. In Indonesia, with more than 500 local language and dialect, we have Bahasa Indonesia as lingua franca. So we expect that this itself 7 FHIR is a lingua franca for communicating many application and system that do not communicate one to another. So, for example, when we prescribe a ceftriaxone or lab result regarding E. coli resistance, it should be understood by other system, whether it is a laboratory information system, EMR, national reporting, or global platform using the same standard. So we try to adopt the WHO Smart Guideline, in which it provide the standard um, framework to develop a system, starting from the guideline and then all the human readable software neutral documentation, in which, for example, we will develop who will be involved in the reporting, data collections, all workflows, metadata, and all algorithms, and all data set should be written in the level 2, the operational level. In the smart guideline of WHO, there are 5 levels, but for this project, we just work on the level 1 and level 2. Level 1, like Vida already mentioned, we already learned from all the guideline related to the IMR surveillance. WHO already released several smart guideline, for example, it's HIV and also TB. Our colleague actually already mapped the WHO smart guideline on HIV and compare with the national HIV reporting and information system. It is also something that we also follow on how to adopt the smart guideline for IMR surveillance. Ministry of Health actually already adopted HL7 Fire with all resources, in which we try to adopt these HL7 Fire resources into what we call a playbook for Satu Sehat. For example, this one is the example in our website of Satu Sehat, the interoperability guide. We call this the playbook. In this playbook, for example, in tuberculosis, it explains all the standard in the tuberculosis reporting, including patient identity and then how to record anamnesis, physical examination, laboratory result, diagnosis, etc. In this playbook of tuberculosis, it also include, for example, certain result of, for example, microscopic result, and then map with HL7 Fire resources. This is also example for its IV, for example. This is also the result of its IP, and then map to the uh, SNOMED city and also the Loing one for the laboratory. So the question is, currently WHO do not yet develop the smart guideline for IMR. So it is also our exercise using our landscaping and then develop the complete model of IMR surveillance to be comply with the Indonesia Satu Sehat platform. We have learned from the level 1 narrative, learning from all the guideline. And also we learn all these component related to the operational one. For example, who will be involved in the IMR surveillance, the users, the business process, the workflow, etc. And then we develop also the core data element, decision support logic for IMR, and also indicators and performance. We have not yet reached on the L3, but we have the idea on how to map all these data component into the terminology standards in Satu Sehat Playbook, including SNOMED City, Loing, WHO, ITC, and also the Kamus Farmasi Alat Kesehatan. So this is the playbook of Satu Sehat. But we are sorry, it is still in Bahasa Indonesia. But at least if you learn from this variable, it is easily to be understood by others. At least the same methodology also we use for HIV, TB that also published by WHO. So this is it's not easily to be understood, but it is actually the workflow of IMR surveillance. Next slide. And also the workflow for and also the detail of each component, and also the workflow from the existing system of AMR surveillance, and then the expected one if we apply or adapted the playbook. So this is just an example on how to map between HL7 Fire resources with the reporting of, for example, IMR. So if we have the result from the sensitivity culture test, and we can identify what is the type of specimen, for example, and then we identify and map with the Loing, and also provide the data and type of the resources of the specimen, and also the testing result, and also finally in which type of drug that the specimen are resistant, for example. So this kind of mapping actually could also be implemented if we comply to this playbook. So the challenges is actually in the next in other sectors. In the human sector, we have already identified the standard terminologies, data exchange, and also the aggregation level, maturities, and also all the existing regulation. But I think the differences between human, animal, and environments is also very important for the next step to invest on improving interoperability among sectors. This project has been completed by support of many teams here, and also the support of FINE, and also the support of the Ministry of Health, and also the team of Digital Transformation Office. I think that's all from our team, and I return back this session to Cha.
Thank you, Pa Anis and Miss Vida, for the presentation. To officially open our discussions, I'd like to call on Pa Bimo.
Thank you, Pak Anies, Bu Vida. Yeah, I think I used to discuss this in a capacity representing Digital Transformation Office from MOH, but yeah, I already back in private currently, and I think this was I think this is one of the parts that actually in hospital itself, not many uh, healthcare workers really aware. Yeah, Pak Anies. I think so many, but it is obvious it's become a silent pandemic. I mean, a lot of time the vice ministers said about this in the meeting, while he himself knew about the risk of this silent pandemic potentials of AMR. But I think the awareness of what is actually could happen with AMR, with the healthcare worker itself, it's still very limited. I don't say it's low, but it's very limited. And in the system that been deployed currently, it's actually so hard. I could say that even for myself, while mapping this, because it's related with the lab testing, and at a lot of points in clinical control, how the doctors actually prescribe the antibiotics. It is very limited acknowledgement actually. So I think working for like almost 2 years in DTO, helping for the national integrations, I was thinking that we should do more on the ground, on the healthcare level, on how to educate more about this to improve the capacity, the understanding, while we are doing the technical or the technological parts actually. Because I think if you are saying about people and process, there is still so many things that need to happen. And speaking as a doctor myself, I'm not always aware of the risk on the antibiotics, misprescriptions, or polypharmacy. I think we could say that. Yeah, I think that's the first step. And the second one, from technical point of view, it is very important. We also support the interoperability inside the healthcare facility. I say if the laboratory information systems need to talk with the clinical parts, I think there is things that we need to help the healthcare IT teams on the ground to realize how to do this actually. Yeah, Pak Anies. I think that's from my perspective, and happy to discuss more since I mean uh, I'm freely to discuss actually.
Yes, thank you, Pa Bimo. We have some questions in the chat. Let me just go through them briefly. We have a question here from Sir JL from the Philippines. So, in your AMR or AMU surveillance system, how did you decide which data elements are must have versus nice to have to avoid overburdening facilities while still supporting One Health analysis?
Yeah, it's a very good questions. At the time, actually, we follow the guideline from the national guideline on AMR surveillance, in which they mention that all data related to the surveillance we map to the fire resources and then put into the playbook. Actually, we put all the variables into the playbook and did not uh, differentiate between must have or nice to have. But given that it is still in the playbook level, it is not yet on the implementation level. So what we put on the playbook is um, all the must-have variable to be entered. So the nice-to-have variable is probably will be found if we implement the playbook, given that the uh, capacity and also the availability of resources in the hospital are different from one to another.
Thank you, Pa Anis. Our next question is from Dr. Purnamawati Sujud. Once the data is collected, what solutions do the data offer on the context of mitigating AMR?
The idea is that when we implement the standardized reporting using FHIR itself 7, and all the system are comply with the FHIR itself 7, including the laboratory EMR system and also other system that uh, that use, for example, for electronic prescribing or any module specific module. It is expected that we could improve for the data collections. For example, in the playbook, it mentioned about the decision support for certain result that could be also be used to validating the data. So I think if we could also have this decision support in the beginning and adopt it into the EMR, so it is expected to improve the data collection, the quality. And also if it is complied, the itself 7 fire also adopted by EMR, it is expected that the process for analyzing, for example, the new type of resistances could also be understood easier, earlier for the purpose of surveillance.
Thank you, Pa Anis. We still have other questions here. From Dr. Alvin, is the Indonesia core important for AMR?
Um, Pak Bimo, I think any comment about this?
Yeah, there's I could say there's an unfinished work about the Indonesia core. I could just say that, Dr. Alvin. Yeah, I think some people, quote unquote, graduated from DTO is still trying to continue this work in a community. That's a very interesting, actually, how I could say that some of them were not from actually health informatics, but after fall in love with the interoperability and doing this fire, I think they still want to do this and help as a community part. So yeah, I think we should explore more, either about Indonesia Core for AMR. I think from the prescription side, that will be really important.
Yes, thank you, Pa Bimo. Our next question is from Dr. Malinda Wijeratne. How is the playbook different from the implementation guide?
Thank you. Yes, actually, in our paper, we also try to analyze the comparison between the playbook and also the implementation guide, because in our playbook, it is more focused on the implementation and something applicable for the health facilities in Indonesia. But for the implementation guide and also the smart guideline, I think is more ideal, and that is why, for example, the study of my colleague that identify and compare the smart guideline of HIV and our existing health HIV information system, they only map just about 10% of variable are comparable. So it seems that in our opinion, all the implementation guide or including, for example, smart guideline, uh, could also be have a different level of implementation in the countries, given that they have also different capacities and resources. But I think we need also on certain level having the same um, uh, level of data or minimal data to be collected. For example, into the global level, I think certain data, I think we need to comply. But for the technical part, I think there should be some variation depend on the situation and context of each country.
Thank you, Pa Anis. We also have another question from Dr. Malinda. So how did you map the smallest unit population for animals in fire resources?
Yeah, I think it is also a very big question, because fire itself seven is focused on the individual and mostly is human. But in fire itself seven, I think the component from other part like animal, it is not yet defined, and also in the population level, it is also not defined. But we learn as well that there was also a Snomet City extension for veterinary and also Lowings extension for veterinary. So I think this is also something that we need to explore, especially for our colleague from the veterinary public health or information system.
Thank you, Pa Anis. We've reached the top of the hour, but I think maybe we can entertain one last question. So this question is from Dr. Nu Nguyen. My question is, when you created the interoperability AMR data sharing from hospitals, did you go to any data quality check step prior to allow import of the AMR data into the OH AMR information hub?
Would you
Um,
help?
it is not yet, Dr. Bimo, yeah. I think the
Yes.
step for data collection, it is not yet. Even, for example, right now in our Satu Sehat data collection until in the national level, the issue of data collection, it is not yet implemented right now. I think I remember the comment of Dr. Bimo at the time when he observed our Satu Sehat data related to several prescription on meropenem. I think the number is still very low compared to uh, the real data of a prescription. But it is actually a very important question related to the data quality and also completeness. Dr. Bimo, any comment about this?
Yeah, I think basically if you are speaking about the fire as interoperability to the Satu Sehat as National Health Information System or the HIE, yes, there is of course the data quality check step. But if you are speaking about the AMR data, which at that time we start from the prescription, it is still very limited. So I don't think if it is already implemented anyway, or perhaps there is another things that we evaluate, but I couldn't say this as internal Satu Sihat anyway right now. But at that time we see that might be some part is too strict, so the data cannot go in. So we found an item like things like that. But I cannot say this for current updates from the current state. But at that time we see that.
I think we still have questions here, but if it's okay, maybe we can email them to the speakers and see if we can
Mhm.
answer it after the call. So thank you once again to Miss Reen, Miss Vida, Pa Anis, and Pa Bimo for joining this webinar and teaching us about the AMR strategy through One Health of Indonesia. Before we go, I hope we can take a group photo. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining.
Terima
Thank
kasih.
you.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
you.